I'm fluent in 6 languages, and I'm going to tell you something that's going to offend half of the polyglots out there. Most language learning hacks are destroying your progress. Today, I'm going to rank 18 of the most popular language learning advice into a tier list. We have 5 tiers: legendary, great, fine, waste of time, and no. And yes, Duolingo and Flashcards are on the list. I'm Mehin. I speak 9 languages in total. Let's get into it. First tip is Duolingo, another generic language learning app. It's gonna go to the waste of time tier. You're clutching your streak right now? Good. Apps don't teach you the language, they teach you how to play the app. I'm not talking about purpose-specific apps like flashcard apps, for example. I'm talking about those that promise you that they're gonna teach you the language, that they have some sort of a program, and then your streaks are gonna make you fluent in no time. You spend 20 minutes tapping, and then you learn like 7 words, 2 of which you're gonna forget tomorrow because a very small fraction of those apps have spaced repetition. It's basically entertainment disguised in language learning. And the second problem is that most apps are phrase-based. You're doing pattern recognition without really recalling the words, the distinct parts of the language, etc. It feels like progress because your brain recognizes the layout without really teaching you how to form new sentences yourself. Why is this waste of time and not no category? Because they do help you in tiny things like a little bit of vocabulary, adding some fun to your language learning journey. I would skip on that as somebody that does language learning all the time. If you want to gamify your progress a little bit, it's cool to incorporate them as a way to motivate yourself. If you want to pass an exam, or if you just want to learn the language as fast as possible, then skip on that. And if you're thinking, okay, fine, I'll just use textbooks then. No, you won't. That's the second tip, and it's using language textbooks to study languages. Oh my goodness. You're using a book to study living language. Hot take number 2, textbooks are gonna go in no tier. So that's a little bit controversial because textbooks don't give you the language, they give you school knowledge that you're not going to use in real life. They teach you knowledge about the language, like the rules, the phrases that are probably outdated. They're very grammar reliant. You can ask 90% of polyglots and everybody's going to tell you that grammar is the last thing that you should do. And the biggest crime of textbooks, it's not even that. Time that you spend on textbooks a lot and your results are never going to be matching that. Second issue is the textbook language. Awkward phrases that nobody uses in real life. The final reason why it's in the no category is transfer issue. So complex to translate the knowledge in real life because the phrases are not usable. You don't get the same listening approach, and it's literally going to be terrible for your confidence because you're always going to be looking for your grammar mistake. If you're using any textbooks, at least use specific ones. I'm probably thinking that I'm going to hate on everything, but no. The next step is something that's actually pretty good. So our hack number 3 is flashcards. And you know what? Flashcards are great. They're like effective, so I'm gonna put them in great tier, obviously. If you ever said, I forget everything, I can't learn words, that's your solution. The only reason why flashcards work is active recall. Flashcards are great because it's active learning instead of passive learning. And you know, when you're passive learning, like rereading stuff or highlighting stuff, you're learning like 5 to 10% of information, and flashcards like give you at least 80%. Also, if you add spaced repetition to that, if you repeat your flashcard decks a week and in a month and then in 4 months, and for building your basic vocabulary fast, it's probably, I would argue, the only way to guarantee that. Now you may ask, if I love flashcards so bad, why is it not legendary? Because in the legendary tier, I put the hacks that give the most results with the lowest effort. And flashcards are very high effort and very, very high result. And my method is not focused on studying. I love when a language feels natural. So I generally don't promote any sort of intentional studying. I don't do it. But for most people, it could help like crazy. But I'm still using flashcards for Mandarin because Mandarin is very difficult and I can't just listen my way into it. How I use flashcards is I use high frequencies lists, not level lists, not topic lists. Now let's get into the method that everybody's fighting over. And it's the lexical approach. Learning phrases instead of learning words. This is where the debate starts. I'm going to put it in the no tier. And if you're going to type, but phrases are how natives speak, you're going to see why I disagree. My issue is flexibility. If you learn a language in fixed phrases, you become good in repeating instead of creating. Context changes. Even if you just change the social group that you're talking to, you lose everything. Real speech is full of slangs, shortcuts, filler words, connectors, and the phrases don't teach you that. Fluency is never about sounding correct. It's about sounding natural. Now, let's talk about the method that some people love and some people hate. If you go to AI, it's probably going to tell you it's useless. It's passive listening and it's legendary. So whenever you're on autopilot, so when you're driving or in the gym, whenever your brain is not busy, you listen to anything. Here's why passive listening is the best thing that exists on earth, and there's nothing better. It doesn't take that much time. You do these things every single day anyway. If you add your language practice, your daily listening is going to come up to at least 2 hours a day, and it's going to be unavoidable for you to get fluent. Some sort of studying on the side, then your daily studying time is going to come to like sometimes 5 hours, sometimes 6 hours. And it's so cool if you have this habit. It normalizes their language, your ears adapt, more comfortable listening. It's going to help your reading. That's why people that listen a lot understand even without trying. And it's also good if you're more advanced to maintain the language. It's not the favorite, but I am going to give you my favorite hack. Now, speaking of dead ends, let's move on to watching Netflix or other platforms like that. And I'm going to put it in fine. Not great, not legendary, but definitely not bad. Here's the problem. Netflix is real language. And actually in my language learning framework, I do have watching a movie a day every single day for the first months. So it's something that you have to do. But when you're a beginner, it's going to be very hard for you to understand native speech. So you may rely on subtitles too much. And dubbed speech is not as natural as you would want it to be. So Netflix is not a bad tool. It's a good tool on the right level and with the right approach. Generally, the main rules are watching more documentaries on your niche because it's going to be easier for you to recognize most words. And secondly, is repeating things that you love rewatching in the target language. So you don't have to rely on subtitles that much. And now we're gonna move on to something that looks like Netflix, but it's completely different and way better. And it's social media immersion. Because if you switch your media correctly, this is what makes this tip go into the legendary tier. If you do this correctly, your progress becomes unavoidable. One of the easiest, one of the most natural ways to learn language. Here's the hack. You start new accounts on Instagram, TikTok, every single social media platform that you use, and you only consume content in your target language. So unless you're doing social media for a living, you don't switch accounts back until you learn the language, and you ban yourself from watching content in your native language unless it's an emergency. Most people spend at least a couple hours a day on social media. Imagine that every day you get this much immersion just from social media, and I'm not talking about other methods. And repetition is everything in this because it's the same words, same slang. You're gonna look for creators in the industries that are interesting to you. You're gonna follow them. You're gonna like a couple of their videos to customize your feed. You're gonna watch whenever you have time. It's literally like low friction immersion. And for busy people, or if you have ADHD or anything like that, it's gonna be so much easier because you don't have to specifically focus to do that or treat it like a session. And also one of the reasons why it's legendary and it's not just great is that it's very low effort. And the next hack, which is listening to music, is gonna go to the fine tier. Because music can help, but most people use it in a way that's useless. You hear real words people pronounce and people use every single day. You pick up pronunciation patterns, and that's going to help you on your speaking later on. And it's because songs repeat, you get pattern recognition, and also you passively learn many words. You don't really focus on the vocabulary that much, and your pronunciation is definitely going to benefit a lot from it, but still it's not going to be a very effective method. If you want to use it, you'll have to use it intentionally by looking up the lyrics, by getting obsessed with a celebrity and listening to all of their songs, by listening to the same songs on repeat. So while passive music is going to give you culture, active listening is going to give you the language. Now, if you want a hack that's going to make you sound more fluent, smarter, and generally better, then the next one is for you. The next hack is learning connector words first. And connectors are like words like hence, nevertheless, and stuff. So basically what we use in our daily life. Because connectors don't just add words into your vocabulary, they literally change the way you control the language. Half of real speech is not fancy vocabulary, it's glue words. And if you master them early, even with limited vocabulary, you're gonna understand way more because you're gonna know the main conclusion that the person had. Connectors tell you the why, the how it's all a complete system. They're also very good for your confidence in your speaking, and they also give you a little bit of extra time when you speak. It's literally cheating speaking wise. And when you use connectors, you stop sounding robotic, you start sounding more human. And why it's not legendary, it's because it's not something to base your language learning on. It's just too good to be just fine. Now, speaking of translating things in your head, let's move on to the next hack, which is translating text from your native language to your target language and vice versa. And I'm gonna put it into the waste of time category. That method makes you feel like a genius while keeping you stuck. There's one thing it may help you with, and it's learning new words. But let's talk about why I hate it. Languages don't map one-to-one. That's it. The pattern in your native language often doesn't exist in your target language. Different words, different phrases, different idioms, different tone even. Translation teaches you to think in one language and then try to translate it each time in your head into the other language, and not learning how to speak naturally. The word choice, the grammar, the right idiom to translate one. That's why you probably say that you understand but you can't speak. That's the reason, yeah. And the worst part is that it builds this translation habit that is very hard to let go of. Now, can translation be useful sometimes? Probably for new vocabulary. Would I recommend it to anyone on earth? No. The next thing is gonna make people mad because it's about kids content like cartoons or kids books, and I'm gonna rank it into a waste of time. But I've been a victim of this propaganda too. And I agree that on like A0 to A1 it may help, but here's the question: is it simple or is it just not very real? Problem is that it reduces your scope of understanding because the topics that are in the kids content are very repetitive, mostly focused on teaching kids basic things about life that are not that useful for you. But if you stay in it for too long, it's very easy to stay in it for too long because it's easy and it feels rewarding, then you don't learn how to become fluent, you learn how to act fine. Most people are like, if you don't know how to name furniture in your target language, then you don't speak the language. No, bro, like I don't have to know every single piece of furniture. I probably don't know it in my native language because I don't care about like different types of furniture. That's just an example, right? Now, the next step is something that everybody does, they probably should do, and it's switching your phone language. People swear that it changes everything, but I'm gonna rank it in fine because it's not as life-changing as most people say. It won't make you fluent, but it will expose you to more of the language because you use your phone a lot. The scope of the vocabulary is tiny. It's the least you can do, and it's very simple. That's why it's not in the waste of time category, because again, it's extremely simple. Now, if you want something that really does move the needle very fast, it's gonna be the next hack, and it's learning frequency vocabulary first, and I'm gonna put it in great. And the only reason that it's not legendary is again because it takes a little bit more effort. Frequency words are powerful because languages are very repetitive, and also it's so much better than just learning words by levels because most of the C2 words are not useful. If you learn the top words, the ones that appear everywhere, you instantly start understanding the language. And if you add flashcards and spaced repetition, you get an A. And once you've learned all of that and your level is a little bit more advanced, the next hack is going to help you on B1 plus, and it's reading news, and I used Google News for that. This one is great tier. News gives you what exams want, what schools want, and what you want if you want to advance past B1. If you read news consistently, you're going to build the academic base that you need for any exam that you want, for any type of complex reading. Also, news is predictable. If you're reading news, it's probably about something that you already have an idea about because it's happening in the world right now. I encourage you to use Translate all the time. You can use ChatGPT, doesn't matter. Translate the words that you see, and the most popular ones, even if they're complex, they're going to stick at one point. The next thing that comes is reading books. Sounds elite, but I'm gonna rank it in fine because books can teach you the language, or they can keep you stuck for longer. You see sentences structures again and again, and it's gonna build up. But it's very slow and it's very high effort. And if the book is too hard, you keep on translating and it turns into a grammar exercise. So if you want a book to work, you have to choose the right level, the right topic, choose something modern. I prefer nonfiction for that, because you're going to use the vocabulary that you learn from them more. Don't overdo it. Now, while reading is input, the next hack is going to be arguably one of the best forms of active learning, journaling in your target language. This is great tier. Learn how to produce your own thoughts, the topics that you will use on the daily, and instead of translating text that's somebody else's thoughts, you're going to learn how to say things that you would say anyway. It forces active recall if you're avoiding translation too, so it's going to help you use the words that you've learned, your life, your problems, your daily routines, all in your target language. And it's going to help you speak later on too. Speaking is basically like journaling but faster, so if you build this, you're halfway there. And the only reason why it's not legendary is again because it's a little bit higher effort, and it's one legendary again, and it's short form content. This is my favorite language learning hack. This is something that nobody uses, but it's the core of my language learning framework. TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. It's fast, it's addictive, and the repetition is brutal in the best way of it. It gives you the real modern language. It gives you the slang words, it gives you the filler words, it gives you words that are used every single day in the topics that you're interested in. So my name is Mehin. I love going to the library. It's not as cool as learning brain rot language, honestly. So most videos have like some sort of subtitles on them, so it's also reading comprehension. Once you train your feet, it adapts to you, to your interest, to your humor, to what you want to hear. Imagine speaking English and not knowing what low key was. That would be useless. Use it as your main language learning machine. Now that we've gotten the legendary ones, let's go with something different. and it's the pronunciation first approach. I've never heard a hyperpolyglot swear by it though. It's when you focus on pronouncing letters, on your accent and all first. And it's gonna be in the note here. I hate that. I'm completely against it. You're obsessing with your accent when your accent doesn't matter. If somebody judges your accent or your pronunciation, even though what you're saying is very clear and they can understand what you're saying, they're probably monolingual. It's such a waste of time focusing on the perfect pronunciation, on the perfect phonetics, while you're not even learning the language yet. The real foundation is listening, not pronunciation. It feels safe because you can practice and then you think that you're not going to get judged, but you can't become a polyglot without getting judged. The cost of good pronunciation can be huge. This method just protects your ego and blocks everything else. If you want my exact system, there's a free PDF in the description box as always, and also there's a playlist on my channel on my language learning hacks. And now if you would disagree with any of those, comment. More than a bit for debate, even though I'm probably gonna win. So what language are you learning? Maybe I can guide you on anything. Promise you, you're gonna get it.